그릇에 무엇을 담을 때
What do we do when you put something into a bowl? What do we do?
아니 우선
What is the first thing that we do? First, we check whether it's broken or not in order to prevent leakage.
깨진 것은 뭘 뜻하느냐 하면 깨진 것은 내가 함부로 아무렇게나 살면서 법문을 들으려고 그러면 법을
It symbolizes that those broken glasses
그릇을 함부로 던져서
it's almost same as when I'm trying to listen to Buddhist teachings, then I have been living a life in a way, in any way that you want, and you are trying to put Buddhist teachings into bowl or into the glass. So when you try to put something, likewise, when you try to put something into a glass, you make sure that the glass is not broken, and if the glass is broken, you do not use it. After that, what do you do? You check whether it is proper to put into this glass. Likewise, you cannot put stew in a very small bowl, and if you put rice into the stew bowl, although it seems like there's not much difference between the stew bowl and the rice bowl, there's a quite a change or difference. The rice bowl, because it is solid, it does not stay like up, or it does not move so much. But when you put stew into the rice bowl, if you put it in so much hurry, then it might overflow. So depending on the things that you put in, you also check what kind of bowl do you need. So it is also important to see what is my situation, or what is my condition. If something is I am so poor, but if you try to take a car that is so expensive, then that also causes problem. Maybe we have to do some math test here too, in order to check our potential. After you decide the purpose of the bowl, what do you have to do? You have to wash, clean. Even you guys, when you're listening to the teaching, if in your heart, if you have so much stubbornness, and if you have too much thoughts that you should not be having, it's not good. So it's better to empty your stubbornness and listen. If you have your own stubbornness and if you listen, then it often clashes. If you're listening with the thought that you are trying to find out the wrong things about Buddhism, or like my teaching, then it's almost like you're putting food into the bowl which has toxins in it. Even if after you put it, you're not able to eat it, it is not helpful to you. So it's not helpful to you at all. So the teachers, when they said you have to listen with the proper thoughts, and also if you're trying to listen with a evil purpose or wrong thoughts, then they ask you to leave the place. So if someone it's someone who has a deep sense of theft in his mind, but if he became a monk or if he became a priest, then he is bound to be a thief. So he only ruins the Christianity.
삿된 생각들이 또 탐욕이 우울 해가지고 이 법을 들으면 저러면
If you are listening to teaching with the every thoughts, then it only causes harm. So in Seokjeon Temple, when you come to listen to the teaching, I have not accepted listening to any of this at all. If you expect us to help you do your business better, because you are having wrong thoughts in your mind, no matter how much you try, you're not able to approach to the right teaching. So even if it's difficult, you should try your best in order to reach to the proper teaching. You have to check whether it's proper teaching for you or whether your bowl is not broken. It is also in the fables, a bird has been invited to a party, but they put it into a vase. So that kind of thing should not happen. Where you do something because your heart is so evil, and you're also so distorted, and so some of you might feel difficulty sitting even at the time of the teaching, or it's difficult for you even to come to the right place, and you're not able to shut your phone too. So at times, sometimes when I ask you to hang up the phone, they will still bow down and say hello. That is all distraction. Then it's because you do not have so much depth, and your flow is fine together with whatever environment that is surrounding you. When you're listening to teaching, you should be able to overcome them. You should try hard to take them out of your heart. Why so? Because it is done in order to provide you benefits. What benefits is beneficial to our money or your family life or your friendship. It is not beneficial to those. They might come as a supplementary happiness for you, but it provides benefit in order to reduce your suffering but increase your happiness. What I mean to say is, please do not use it as a means to gain more happiness for you. Because of if you do that, then because of mere happiness or because of some other mere incidents, you might feel happy and unhappy at the same time. So when you're listening to Buddhist teaching, you should leave out all this, and when you're practicing listening to Buddhist teachings, then you should leave out everything and focus on the teaching, or else this should be time for you. This 1 hour is a time for you not to think of anything else, but empty everything that's inside of you. Then only it's possible, and then only you will have room to breathe in your life. In our life, we are filled with agony and also greed and also anger, and there's no room for us to breathe. We only practice our deaths. So you should try to broaden your room for breathing. There should be strength to look and observe, and there should also be space for you to broaden the space. So if you feel your heart is so narrow, then you should try to um, you should try to take it out, just like putting an effort to take out the stone from tip of your finger, or else that will cause you more suffering. You have to do that. That is the preparation to study.
강조하는 것은 7가지 공양하는 법은 여러분이 항상 그걸 시행을 함으로써 스승으로부터 부모로부터 멀어지지 않는 자양 예비 수행.
So if you remember, my focus on you to study acts as
7가지 예경하는 거, 공양 올리는 거, 참여하는 거 이건 다 여러분이 7가지 그 공양하는 그 방식대로
basis for your practice and also the basis of your study. You should not miss out any, and
그 금강경처럼 모든 부처님께 공양 승사를 공양에서 이어서 계속 나온 것을 갖다 그치지 않고 하겠다 요 생각을 가짐으로 해서 그게
and just like putting efforts in order to attain Buddha's teaching, you will try your best. And only if you have those situations provided to you, you will be able to live your life without so much suffering. You're on the page number 59. On the first line. First, we say wisdom and compassion. We say Buddhism is the religion for compassion and also wisdom. Actually, when you explain these two things, although we explain things separately, they are not actually different. If I give you a comparison, when you switch on this light, what do you think? Do you think the light is warm or do you think the light is cold? It should be warm. Can we leave out the warmth and can we just cause light? No, it's not possible. Sometimes the warmth is stressed.
빛이 안 나오고 난방을 하는 것은 따뜻함만 나온 것 같죠, 그죠? 그러나 여러분 전기 코일을 보면
you feel when you have the warmth surrounding the boiler, you feel that there is no light. But if you look at the electric coil, you can see the light. But in this form, we see more of the light than the warmth. So we only feel the brightness, but the light is actually warm. So compassion is the warmth of heart. Like if you look at all sentient beings as your mother, and if you are trying to remove the sufferings of all sentient beings, this feeling is the compassion. And your ability to observe it or experiment it, that is the wisdom. When we switch on the light, we can see better and we can study better. And from here, if sufferings are caused, you feel like this is a pain and this is a suffering, you should be able to see them as they are. You should not misunderstand. We often misunderstand that this is a cause of happiness or this is a cause of suffering. Without misunderstanding, you should be able to see as they are. We call that wisdom, we call that brightness. But eventually, this thing called compassion, if you do not have the power to observe it, then you cannot see the happiness. When we say you are wise or when we say we are compassionate, that means you have the wisdom. for this person, he or she needs the wisdom, so we only brighten it. But it does not mean she or he does not have it. So in Buddhism, if you just accept the scripture as the source of wisdom, then you just feel as if this is the letter, or this is the base for it.
고통의 실상과 그것을 벗어날 수 있는 여러 가지 방편적 지혜를 갖추지 못한 사람이
If someone who does not possess the wisdom to remove the suffering of others, then that becomes obsession. It becomes darker.
지혜와 자비 구분을 해놨지만 실제는 이게 전부 다 동시성이에요.
Although we have differentiated the difference between the wisdom and also compassion, but they are actually acting together. Here, since the energy is a cause of the brightness, the awakened wisdom and compassion is the cause or origin of the compassion. So those people who are awakened, then they should have wisdom, or they should have the compassion. If you say that the person is enlightened or awakened but doesn't have a sense of compassion, then that's a lie. If you say a great monk does not possess the sense of compassion, then that's a big contradiction. So the brightness and warmth should come together. When the sun is shining out in the sky, then we feel the happiness and we feel the warmth together. But if we say the sun has only the brightness but does not possess any warmth, then it's a lie. And it will eventually lead us to our deaths. And it's the same even if we say that the sun itself only has the brightness and no warmth, because the warmth itself is the brightness. If you talk about in a physics way, then the energy molecule, when it arrives us, it causes both warmth and brightness. Likewise, if you have studied a lot, and if you can only read out the text or scripts, then it's just those who know about the scriptures, but they do not have the sense of compassion, and the person is actually very dark. And also when you are at ignorant stage and you are not able to differentiate what is wrong and what is right, that also gives you a condition that you do not know where you'll be leading to. So these two things should be together, no matter what kind of practice you do. The compassion and wisdom should be together, and they should be developed together at the same time. So that should be the basis for it. Even when you're practicing samatha, if the base is not for the good of all sentient beings, then your practice will not be done. So the basis should be your sense of saving all sentient beings. So our prayers for wishing our happiness or good luck, it only makes us dark. So next life, when you are born, through these practices, or through we can't even call them practice, but if you only practice those, then you become more darker and you cannot live out this human world.
아시겠죠? 그래서 이게 이제
You understand?
자비라는 것을 갖다 이제 설명을 하는데.
So in Kumlim Barba, they explain about wisdom. But before we start explaining, you should know that there are not two things together, two things separately, and I thought it's easier for you to understand them they are together. So I decided to speak to you about this. When passing down to the wisdom, you have to make an oath to save all sentient beings. So, since the practice should be based on selflessness, you have to promise that you are actually practicing this in order to save all sentient beings. You cannot just say that you are coming to temple because you're very comfortable. You're already filled with this kind of comfort. This sort of comfort is already surrounding you. So, what is the essence of wisdom? It is in the sense for the all commons. Why is it in the commons? It's because the sense of compassion and also sense of us start together. If you start the if you're able to start the thoughts in a proper way, it becomes wisdom or it becomes compassion. But if you're not able to start it, then it just starts off as a common feeling of a human. So the wisdom to observe the feeling, it is the wisdom. And you should try to save them from the suffering, and that's enlightenment. You should possess the heart that you are trying to save the others, and you have to make an oath. It's not something like you are just thinking that you are trying to save the others, but it is same as an oath. This democracy does not work under the mere thoughts. And also this democracy also possesses the structure for the rich people to get richer. Why is that so? Because it already possesses the structure for it. And if you ask, are we correct or are we right? Then it is also a great question, because we are in a way tempting more of our greed. So those bodhisattvas who has this compassion, we also call this bodhisattva those people who has the sense of compassion in them. Because of their love and because of their sense of sacrifice in order to look for others, they are bodhisattvas. This is a common thought, regardless of all sutras, whether it's Diamond Sutra or whether it's also in the middle parts, or whether it's also in the other scriptures in Hinayana, which is whether it's a Sutra of the Lotus or whether it is Avatamskara Sutra too. So there are also some people who sell rice at the cheap price and make a porridge and sell it for expensive price. In olden times, if a person is not strong, or if the person does not seem to be working out properly, then we say has the mother has thrown out the baby and just grown up the skin of it. So it actually means you have not brought up human. There is a meaning that's like behind. So you have to make an oath. The compassion is essential regardless of whether it's a beginning stage or final stage or in the middle stage. So same, even for six parameters, even though Buddha has achieved six parameters, it's not like he does not practice six parameters anymore. Because some of monks, they think they have practiced wisdom so hard, they should not practice wisdom. But even if you have completed this stage, you should still practice it. So the sense of compassion, even when you're expecting the sense of bodhisattva, it causes a sub-ace. And even when you're practicing the sense of wisdom, because in order to practice them, you also have to practice wisdom. So in Buddhism, if you take out wisdom, then what is left? That's almost like a bread that does not have the center. Even if we say because of your hard practice, you're able to fly in the sky, but still that does not have any meaning. Taoism does not have a proper base. Why? Because it is not based on the compassion. Because in Taoism, you are not able to give up your selfishness, you are not able to give up your greed. Because of the caste that has been made by the God, where can the sense of equanimity arise? It cannot happen. Even those Israelis, there's not so many people in the world who like Israelis. Why? Because they still believe that the God is on their side. We even think that the husbands are on the other side, and how can the God be on their side? But even those, we say the wife and the husband is one body, and so when we say we are practicing Buddhism but we do not have the compassion, sometimes as a joke I say, are you coming to Sakchon Temple for the first time? And I ask, sometimes during on the Buddha's birthday, when they come in, when they prostrate, they do all different kinds of acts, which is wrong. You can teach them in a good way, but you do not speak to them in a proper manner. But you just say whatever with whatever action that you wish to say, and those people, because of that, they don't want to feel here again. If they're coming here for the first time, even those who are doing business in the shop, in order to sell money, they are trying to be nice to other people. But instead of that, you just speak to them in whatsoever manner that you want. And you speak to them in the way that, like, who asked you to take out the light? You couldn't just leave the incense. And since they're coming here for the first time, they do not know what to do, and you yell at them, and then you should be teaching them in the right way. Tell them in the very kind way. Same like when you're teaching babies at home. You should tell them, oh baby, this is the way to eat, but instead you say, oh, that's not the way to do it. This and that is different. If you tell them that this is not the way, then they don't know what's the right way. You have to tell them, oh, this is the way to do it. Then they will know. And looking at that, Buddha is sitting and smiling, that kind of thing should not happen. I thought Buddha would say something, but Buddha wasn't scolding anyone. So you should be nice to others. Even if you're not talking about the sense of compassion, you should be nice to others. If you're not kind to others, then do you feel like you want to look at them at their face? If you're beautiful like some actresses, they might want to see you once again, even if you're not kind. But
다니는 사람도 항상 이기심이 아니고 이 사람은 뭐가 힘들어서 어쨌든 또는 사람마다 고가 있습니다.
Everyone has different suffering, whether it is selfishness or whether it is on their own, whether the act of coming and praying in front of Buddha provides them the relation with Buddhist teaching, so you should help them. So sometimes I say, when you're offering to your ancestors, it should be very difficult for you because they lost family. So can you sit and please pray a little for them and go? But just like they give you ear cups and also the thing that blocks your mind, blocks your eyes, they as if you haven't heard what I said. You leave the place. If you have the sense of compassion, then you should know that how much suffering they're going through, and maybe you wish to sit and pray with them. That'll be very good. But in your head, you think that I'm very busy. But I'm more busy because I have so much problem. I have so much difficulty breathing nowadays.
그러니까 초기 단계, 중간 단계, 어떻게 다 된 단계가 없습니다.
So there's no level in which you don't have to practice anymore, even if you have a great compassion, just like Buddha has. Buddha has distributed wisdom and compassion even to those who are in the previous life, this life, and also the next life through his teachings. And he's talking about his wish that everyone is free of suffering. The Bodhisattvas that they talk about in the previous line are those refers to those who has attained the great Buddha's knowledge for the benefit of all other human beings. those who made the oaths for the better or for the good of all other human beings.
모든 것을 쓰는 거예요.
So your sense of wishing happiness or for the compassion of others, that acts like a seed. If you do not have this seed, then everyone will eventually commit crimes and become criminals. Why? Because even using your religion, you try to do things that makes you comfortable and makes you happy. So they build a big church or a big temple, and you also do a lot of things that falsely fools others, and you end up committing a big crime. But what is the practice of Buddhism, or what is the practice of Bodhisattva? The practitioners of Mahayana are those who has the greatest compassion as the motivation for saving all other beings. When you listen to this prayer, because we have not been living so all this life,
속이 좁아서 그물에 올라오면 그냥 바닥하고 죽어버립니다. 밴댕이라고.
we are not able to see the truth. Just like some animals with a very small heart. Because we have been living so far in this way, we should have the sense of the bodhisattva and also wisdom, and we should try to live away from what we have been living so far. Because our karma is so thick. Because our karma is so thick, no matter how much we listen, we are not able to practice it well.
그러면 모여서 여러분들도 모이면 제발 좀 이런 것도 좀 얘기하고 그러면 좋은데요.
When you gather, it'll be so nice when you talk about this kind of things. But when you gather together in some area, you talk about where can you get the cheapest spinach.
시금치가 어디 싸든가 그랬으면 싼 걸 사가지고 좀뭐 어려운 사람들한테 논아주려고 결론이 그렇게 됐다 그러면 마음이 동기가 그렇게 됐다 그런 거 수행하고
If the motivation to find the cheap spinach is in order to buy and distribute to other poor people, then it's as per the teaching. But if you're trying to buy the spinach for the good of you, then
그렇게 살기 위해서 우리가 절에
this is the reason. This is not the reason why we are coming to temple and we are following religion. We are doing all that in order to live a little more like a human, because we already have the form of a human.
꼴값을 못하고 진짜 금수처럼 살 수는 없잖아요.
Although we have a body of human, we cannot live like other animals.
보살은 그런 존재라 그 말이죠.
So Bodhisattva refers to those beings.
무지무지하게 존댓말도 뭐 그런 존댓말이 없어.
When you call other Buddhist bodhisattvas, that's a word that does not have any more respectable form. When you listen to someone calling you as bodhisattvas, you should feel like your heart pressure rising more than 200. You do not think of the word as heavy as it is, but you think of it in a quite light way. You have a phone. Is it you? This kind of belief, the sense of bodhisattva is those kind of selfless thoughts and those kind of selfless motivation. Because you're not aware of this being of suffering as the suffering, but you try to live following the same way. the wheel of circle goes on, but there should have be the sense that you are trying to get out of it or to save others. And that is the sense of bodhisattva, because Buddha became Buddha in that way.
아재 봐라 승아재 모지사도 갑시다 어서 갑시다 어서 빨리 저
As Buddha's teaching said, let's go fast, let's go to Buddha, let's go to that path.
옛날에 60년대 70년대 이런 얘기였어.
In olden times, during 60s and 70s,
그게 뭐 버스가 어떻게 많은지 그 차장은 그냥 물에 매달려 갈 때가 많아.
there were a lot of bus conductors. Because the bus was so full, there were so many times the bus conductors were just hanging onto the door. And all the time, because they could not see, they said, all right. And although it's written where the bus is heading to, they were often confused and they would ask, where are we going to? And And because of mispronunciation, they also often leads to misunderstanding.
그랬다고 그게 60년대 70년대 한참 유행이 됐다.
And the speeches made from those conductors were in quite fashion between 60s and 70s.
어서 가세요. 그러니까 청량리 중량교 가자는 그런 내용은 다르지만은 형식은 같아.
So the saying, let's go, 아재, 봐라, 아재, although it's a different where you're going to, but that's the same form.
아재, 봐라, 아재, 큰 아재, 작은 아재 그렇게 말하는
You should not just misunderstand where you're heading to. Without knowing the meaning of the last line of prajna paramita, if you just take it as the wrong path that you're going to, that should not be the proper way. It actually means let's go fast to the area where our agony is all worn out. And when you're doing it, that kind of sense should also be spoken out of your heart in a way. But just reciting them loudly, and if you do not know the meaning of it, then you have invited everyone to go together, everyone in the universe to go with you. You have called everyone, and if you say, why are you here? Do you think that makes sense? You have invited everyone, but you don't know what to do with them. That should not happen. Bodhisattva on the way, and if she gives up, then it's the same thing like you call everyone for a party and you give up the party. It's the same as that. So in Mahayana, it's a big crime to arise the sense of bodhisattvas and keep it up. Why? Because if you have given up on your own, that's fine. But you have said let's go, and on the way, if you just give it up, do you think that's okay? Isn't it? Only like 2 people answer, but even those 2 people, they are murmuring.
보리심이라는 것은 연민의 마음과 자비심으로부터 시작된다.
The saying called bodhisattva arises from pity and also relation. We call Buddhas bodhisattva the great bodhisattva, which includes all.
여러분은 세연 중생도 잘 안 되죠, 그죠?
But it's not possible for us to practice
조각도 잘 안 따라와. 그러니까 뭐 같으냐면 이쪽 팔은 이쪽으로 가는데 이쪽 팔이 안 따라오면 어떻게 되겠어?
practice normal activity too. Like if one hand is going this way, but if the other hand goes to the other direction, we cannot proceed. When you try to go a little further, it pulls you from backwards. This begins from the sense of bodhisattva. You have to throw away the wrong opinion of you, and although it's difficult, you have to focus on the practice of 4 ages. After that,
보리심을 내고 자비심을 내서 내가 부처님처럼 돼야 되겠다라는 그래서 육바람일 보살행을 통해서 그걸 보살행이라고 해요.
after that, you follow the 6 parameters, the rules of parameters.
라는 생각을 이제 냈잖아요.
And when you have that
그다음에
feeling, and after that,
잘못된 견해가 잘못된 생각이 무엇인지를 골라서 전부 다
you have to leave out all the wrong, you have to pick out what is the wrong opinion or what is the wrong thought that you possess, and you have to leave them out.
콩나물 넣을 때 참 그 우리 어릴 때 그거 많이 했어. 어머니 콩나물 내가 많이
Like when you are working on the bean sprout,
우리 그 개다리 소반 개다리 상 있잖아요. 여기다 딱 이렇게 네모제비 상에다
you
얹어놓고
put it on a square table,
한 주먹
and you
쫙
you
펴가지고
take out about
개다리 춤을 춰.
some of the beans, and you give it a little shape.
그리고 그 바른 것은 밑으로 빨리
And those right ones, the round and the right ones, they come to the bottom first, and there you collect them, and you leave them out, and again you go through,
쭉쟁이들만 위에 쪼록 있거든.
and then you are able to know that only those bad ones are gathered at the top. Then why do you do this? You do this in order to prevent bean sprout from rotting. You have to sort them out.
하나는 콩을 고르지 않아서
The few reasons why the bean sprout goes wrong. The first reason is because you do not segregate the proper and the improper beans. And the second one is
바가지에 기름이 묻어 들어와가지고
when you're watering it, maybe the bowl that you're giving the water is contaminated.
그죠? 그 다음에 썩는 것은 게을러서 썩어.
After, the reason why it rots is because you're lazy, because you do not give them water.
분열할 때는 열이 엄청나거든. 그래서 이게 물 주는 것은 열을 식혀주는 것이기도
You have to water it in order to reduce the heat, as well as give them nutrition.
그것이 한 세 가지 이유가
There are about 3 reasons.
보통 콩을 잘 안 가렸다.
So if you have not segregated beans well, and if the
바가지를 해서
water that you give them is contaminated, and also
저녁에 장부르에 대해서
because you're lazy,
물을 한 번도 안 줘. 한참 분열할 때는 막 뜨끈뜨끈해 안 해. 그러면 이제 물을 잘 안 주면 콩나물 발이 많이 나와.
if you don't give so much water,
콩나물 떼고
then usually it makes a lot of roots, and if you try to take them out, not many water, it's very difficult to take them out. So you can find out whether you can find out the personality of the person who made the bean sprout.
그다 알아.
You can know it all
콩나물 보면 그냥 다 안다.
looking at them.
그래서 그런 거
Just like it
공부를
while
하는데
studying.
이 완전히 삿된 개면은 콩나물 콩 놓을 때 쭉쟁이 콩 썩은 콩 골라내듯이 싹싹 골라.
Just like you segregate the beans. You should take out all the wrong thoughts. You should not leave them depending on your thoughts and also depending on others.
근거도 없는 얘기들. 요즘 내가 108배를
Nowadays, I'm doing 108 prostration. When I ask them why, under what thought, how do you do?
예, 막 애가 수능이 돼가지고
My son has to go through a test.
콩나물 콩에 쭉쟁이 안 골라낸 콩.
It's just like a bean that has not been segregated. It does not have virtue, does not have the hurt,
그 생각 때문에
and because of that, she also loses the chance to have a proper religious belief. You understand?
전에 화엄사에서 행자생활 때 제일 모기가 얼마나 많은지 말이야. 참 모자를 수건을 뒤집어 쓰고도 수건 위로
Because there are so many mosquitoes.
한번 넣으면 피가
If I hit once, then there was so much blood on my hand.
막한 10마리 20마리 수건 붙어 있는 것들.
And since I was wearing a towel, about 10 to 10 mosquitoes died. So
앉아서 뭘 해야 돼.
it's very difficult to sit and segregate rice too.
이게 씻어 놓으면 쌀이 또 신냄새 여름에는 신냄새가 나잖아.
Because in summer they go wrong.
그때 씻어가야 돼. 그러면 껌껌한데 아침에 이렇게 보면 니가 잘 안 골라.
And if you try to do them in the water, in the morning, then it's very difficult to take out the rice that has not been skinned. You have to segregate the rice from the stones and also the skin, and then you have to segregate the water that you have used to wash because you have to make soup, and you have to set rice, but
신기기를 막 푹푹 풀면 그냥 돌이 다 따라올라. 그래서 이제 살살살 돌려가면서 쌀을 띄워가지고 하는데 두 가지 돌이 내가 제일 힘든 돌이야. 하나는 부석돌이 하나.
you have to make rice for so many people, so it takes long time for you to take the rice or segregate rice. And there are two different stones which are difficult to take out. One is a soft stone, and the other one is a tough stone.
이게 자기 침하고 이렇게 해가지고 돌이 있는데 그 개미가 얼마나 화학 물질을 많이 걷다 해놨는지 이게 이 물에 들어가도 잘 안 부서져요. 집이 요만한 게 하나 들어가면 색깔로 구분해서 그건 얼른 빼야 되는데 잘 구분을 못하면 이제 요거는 조리질 하면 조리에 싹 따라올라.
Sometimes you can also find the house of ant in there, and because this is light,
그냥 속이 미숙해 냄새.
because it is so light, it also comes up with the rice that you are trying to take out. And because the ant has put so much chemicals in it, if you bite it, it smells very bad and it ruins the whole taste of your food. Just like this, a wrong opinion is same as the weed on the field.
정상적으로 따라가는 곡식들 같은 것보다
It makes the grains which are growing in a proper way useless.
옛날에요. 밭에 풀하고 풀멜
So in olden times, when we used to cut the weeds,
풀을 제일 두려워하게.
what do you think is the name of the plant that we were most scared about?
아니요. 아니요. 예? 그래서 밭에 치기 잘 없잖아. 근데 제일 골치 아픈 분이 쇠비름이야. 쇠비름 요거는 껐잖아. 그럼 이제
It is nettle that we hate the most, because if you cut it, then it grows back.
콩밥내는 아줌마가 슬기로
And those ladies
뽑아가지고 빨래줄에다 걸어놔버리거나 담장구에다 던져서 올려버리거든.
this lady who used to cultivate the farm,
있다가 햇빛 쨍쨍 보는 째다가 비 오면 쏙 살아나.
they will pluck them out and they will just hang them on the wall in order for waiting for them to die, and they would die when it's sunny. But
또 뒤에 그냥
when it rains for a day or two, it comes to life again. And if you just have like if you have only about like two of those, then they can cover the whole farm.
그 우리 밭에 깨밭이나 콩밭에 그 쇠비름이 굉장히 골치 아프잖아요.
This nectar causes a lot of headaches in our sesame field and also in our beans farm. So just like this, in our herd, if we have a little sense of wrong thoughts in our head or in our mind, then no matter what I say or no matter what others say, then this will grow and expand. And also, since we are unwise, we cannot think of cause and effect rule, and we change. And so, those people who are cultivating the farm, they have to cultivate it continuously. And also, when you are cultivating, when you are harvesting the grain, then you also have to think about the next year's business. You cannot just leave the farm as it is, since you have already harvested, but you have to work on the farm once again for next year. Until the moment that you die, you have to empty yourself from the wrong thoughts. Then only next life you will be suffering less. If you are not able to do that, even in our next life, maybe we will have some problems. So Buddha's law, we have to listen continuously, we have to remind ourselves, and continuously we have to empty ourselves. This is a knife that doesn't break. The Japan's ability to control matter is so strong that when you first melt the iron to make it a steel, they heat it and they fold it, and they heat it again and they fold it again. They repeat this procedure hundreds of times, and this folded metal forms the steel, and all the things and all the other ingredients other than metal, other than steel, gets either burnt or is hidden to reduce, so the metal stays very strong. Just like this, our evil thoughts or our wrong thoughts. You might wonder, what are the wrong thoughts that I possess right now? But before we become Buddha, everyone has evil thoughts to a certain point. Those big or huge wrong thoughts, we have to take them out instantly. But those minor ones, those tiny ones, or those very sensitive ones, it might take time for you to remove them. After that, by throwing out the wrong opinion of you, although it's very difficult, you have to keep accumulating virtue. So when we say we accumulate virtue, the bodhisattva is based on the wisdom and also compassion, and it causes the procedure of becoming bodhisattva is by accumulating virtue, and you have to work continuously in order to keep accumulating virtues. You should not stop in between, and it should be inherited continuously.
그렇게 상속시키는 거
Not
좋아해요.
like North Korean inheritance of politics. Not that type of inheritance.
보살행을 이어나갈
But
때
our act of continuing our work towards Bodhisattva,
법의 소리바퀴가 멈추지
only if you continue doing it,
그렇게
then the wheel of law does not stop. If you think of it this way and if you act, then
중생을 위한 자비심과 보리심을 바탕으로 한 육바라밀행에 대한 성찰이 꼭 있어야 돼요.
and you should also have a proper view of the six paramita based on the wisdom and also compassion. Or else you will all become selfish no matter where you go and what you do. You understand? Through the power that has caused the Bodhisattva, you should not have doubts on the fact when you will be able to satisfy all these, but you have to continue with practice for the including six parameters. As a result, bodhisattvas can progress through the countless virtues and also wisdom without too much effort. So even if you have the sense of bodhisattva, that is something just as a mere dot. When a small dot is caused, and from the dot, and if the dot continues, then it becomes a line. And if you connect all the lines, it becomes a surface. And if the surface keeps continuing, then it provides a space. So if you have a thought about a thought that's like a dot, which is a sense of bodhisattva, and from here all other senses and all other thoughts, if you have them, they will get connected to the line of heart, and from the line of heart, through your speeches and through your behaviors, that will become a surface. And surface is same as six parameters. And six parameters, they will pray as one space, those six parameters. For example, if you practice six parameters in a space called Yasu, then in Yasu, that will act as benefit for everyone. So the beginning, might just begin with a thought of compassion or bodhisattva, but this can always be filled into the space which has no boundary, and that can be practiced through the practice of bodhisattva. So here, please do not wonder like when will it be. Normally, when you talk about these things, they usually wonder when will be the time we can finish everything. But even us, when our life is harsh, although we have so many things going on, you might wonder when will be the time our life will come to an end. But actually, when you try to do something, then the lifespan is very short. So if you are maybe trying to save all other sentient beings, then you will understand the limit, and you also understand the short of time that you face right now. It will not increase just like a minister who used to love drinking during Joseon time. And because he loved drinking so much, he would just call the king and he would fall asleep. And his writing or his sentences were so great that when he wrote about social affairs. He was so great, but he was always so drunk. And he would call king and he would fall asleep. And sometimes the king felt so bad about it and he would just put him into chariot and take him home. And king gave him a special order not to drink, drink only once, only a glass, and he gave them a king. And he was also drunk. And when the king asked, "Have you disobeyed my order?" he said, "No." And he thought about it and he said, "I cannot live with one glass." And so he called the artist who works on the server, and by working on it, he reduced the size and he increased the size into a big bowl. And king gave up stopping him from drinking.
그래서 우리 자꾸 이제 그 사람이 적어도 그 술 한 잔 먹으라 그러니까.
When the king asked him to drink only one glass, he drank only one glass, but he made the glass bigger. That's what we're talking about. The alcohol is just a comparison, but it's just like this. We have to increase the sense of bodhicitta in us. In order to do that, we have to keep thinking and we have to come up with ideas, and we have to make the silverware into this big. We cannot use it using the small silverware.
어디에다 말하는 건? 응?
That's what you have to do.
그렇게
Then only
공덕과 지혜
you can proceed with the proper virtue and proper and precise wisdom. Then only the last wisdom will open. Then only the great wisdom will open. And the road to open the great wisdom will lay out in front of you. Then only you'll be able to practice one by one.
원만하게 구족할 수 있습니다. 자량을 원만하게 구족하면 일체지는 손 안에 얻은 것과 같습니다.
If you have the molecule of compassion, then you can say that you are actually looking forward to the great wisdom. If you have a guest,
쌀을 팔아다가 장작을 얻어다가 밥을 해주겠다는 한 개도 없다는 얘기입니다. 그렇게 되면 안 되겠죠?
everything should be prepared. Like in order to make a rice, if you cannot just sell the rice cooker to earn the rice and try to set the rice. You need to have the rice cooker, you need to have the rice, and you need to have the flame at the same time. But if you're unlucky and if you don't have any virtue, if you have thick karma, and if you are not wise, and then how can you gain enlightenment all of a sudden? Only the time that you are doing it, then you will come to a stage where it's easier for you, where the enlightenment is easier for you than touching your face while washing your face, touching your nose while washing your face. So if you listen to teaching continuously, if you pray well, if you think well, and if you contribute well, that kind of thing should be your daily life. Only it becomes your daily life, the virtues will accumulate, and only when the virtues are accumulated, you reach to a stage where everything it seems to be easy for you, and you'll be able to step forward one step.
방학 때 애가 일기 미뤄놨다가
It's difficult for your kids to prolong their diary and try to write a month's diary in a day.
누가 그러다고
Someone told me,
어디 갔다 왔는데요. 기도를 갔다가 그러면 이튿날
oh, I went to somewhere. Can I just not pray 2 days prayer at the same time?
근데 어저께를
But you cannot turn yesterday into today.
그죠? 어저께를 오늘로 돌려놓을 수 있는 힘이
You can do that if you have the power to turn yesterday into today. But yesterday is just a yesterday.
그러니까 일기를 쓰는데 한 달 반을 해가지고 쓰면요. 우선 날씨가 흐렸는지
If you're trying to write a month and half diary at the same time, then you're not even sure of the weather. And if you just write like 2 or 3 diaries, then maybe the date is correct, but all the weathers will be wrong, and you will have nothing to write. And so you'll be writing like, I got up in the morning and I had breakfast. I slept in the evening. Even a novelist will not be able to write everything. So practicing or meditation is something that you have to keep doing it without rest. If you keep doing it, eventually you'll reach to a stage where you realize, and you'll go one step further and another stairs up, and you'll understand because of this, this happens. That's correct. So please do not put a reason for studying, not any reason. Don't come and tell me something like, a doctor asked me to come this time because I have to put implant. But it's not the doctor who makes a decision, it's the patient who makes a decision. You have to tell the doctor that you're not able to come that day because you have to go to teaching. And you should not feel it's okay to miss the teaching for a day. In olden times, my father would make the dried fruit, and when he made the dried fruit, he would make 10 each and make it into a round one, and I would want to eat that, and I would just look at it. And I took out one and ate it, but you can see that I took it out. So in order to hide it, I would just try to hide it in a way that, but no matter how much I try, you can only see 9. So my dad would think, a mouse ate one. And he would say, do not eat this because I'm going to use this for offering. And he would ask me to eat only one, but I want to eat 2. So I would eat from the bottom and I would eat one from the top, and I would just again make it look like, oh, I didn't eat it. Studying, like, no matter how much you try to hide it, if it's same like this dried fruit, only 9 is shown there. No matter how much I try to sort it, only 9 is shown. So I have to work hard in order to succeed. So studying, you should study like as if someone would say, oh, that person is very dumb, the person is very, it's always the same. The person studies even in rain, even in snow. it should be done so. You should not give any excuses.
그냥 이때는 이제 삶에 있어 이때는 그냥 전부 다 부처님 법하고 만나는 때하고 딱 그 공간을 갖다가 그 공간 그 시간은 그냥 딱 다른 것이 신범에 들어오지
You should
못하게
make sure that this time and space
인생이
is
쌓이고
a moment where you meet Buddha, and if you should make sure that nothing distracts you. If you do that, then a lot of things will change in your life.
그렇게 바른 길로 가려고 부다히 노력하고
You not go to the wrong path, and you try hard to go to the right path and virtues. You will start also accumulating virtues.
한생요 삿된 개나 이런 거 잘못 만나면 한생
It is not so difficult. It's very simple for you to ruin one life of yours if you meet the wrong thoughts. You will suffer greatly.
그게 금방 막 좋다
Just because you
그래가지고
like
금방
it,
그냥 제일 좋은 것은 자기 욕심에 맞으면 제일 좋거든.
and if you try, of course it might be the easiest for you if it befits you, but it doesn't help you so much.
이제 스승이라고 하는
So those whom we call teachers
잘 못되고 응구렁이에 빠질 때
should be those who scold you and also tell you not to do or not to go when you're falling into a swamp. They should be those who will be able to tell you.
진짜 개척 수 있어야 돼. 그못 받아들이는 때는 이제 스승이 적절한
And if he cannot accept it, then he should be able to stop you. But if your base is so weak, no matter how much they try to tell you, you're not able to get it.
이렇게 시간이 걸려버리고 겨우
And if it takes you 10 to 15 years in order to climb one stairs, then that's a very foolish act.
굉장히 멍청한
Just like this, the absolute wisdom space is only I, and you have to get used to it first. The all sentient beings,
자비심이 발로된 게 모든 중생이 생사라는 크게 보면 어쨌든 인간 세계
if you look at it in a broad way, you are born into the human world and you die. Everything is in there. But if you look at it from a bigger point of view, then there's a suffering of birth, there's also suffering of death, and it's the same even as a hell. Even in hell, there's a pain of birth and there's pain of death.
그걸 피할 수 있는
There's no means to escape it.
지금까지 발견된 방법으로서는 부처님 법 외에는 피할 수
There's
있는
no means to
방법이
escape it other than Buddha's teaching.
요것보다 더 쉬운
If there's
방법이
any other
아무도
easy
아니야.
way other than Buddha's teaching, you can do it.
생사를 윤회하는 생사를 갖다 벗어날 수 있는
But until today, there is no teaching or there's no means that has been introduced in order to escape the human suffering, human agony.
그래서 이 윤회하는 계속 다람쥐 쳇바퀴 돌듯이 윤회하면서
So you have to repent and you have to suffer all the time.
중생이
and-
고통받고 있는 것에 대해서 염려전 자비에
And
내는 것이 가장 불법을 시행하는
the first step that the first step you have to take, or the first motivation for you to practice Buddhism, should be your sense of pity for the suffering of all sentient beings who are born and who are dying and who has to go through this endless suffering of life and death.
여기서 저자는 일체지의 근본 바탕은 오직 자비뿐이라고
Here the author speaks of the only original basis for the absolute wisdom is only compassion.
콩을
So if you want to harvest beans, what do you have to plant? What do you have to plant? You have to plant beans? Why not red bean?
콩을 근원적으로 우리가
If you want to
수확을
harvest
하겠다라고
beans,
했을 때는
then you have to plant beans.
그러니까 좁쌀을 심어놓고 기도를 한다고 해서 어떤 종교 행위를 아주
If you plant rice and no matter what difficult or what complex religious activity you take or you practice, the rice will not become beans.
부처의 일체지를 이루는 부처의 씨앗,
So the seed to become Buddha or the seed to attain Buddhahood is the compassion. You understand? Your act of praying for luck or your act of praying for virtue, it is not going to help you. It has got nothing to do with you practicing Buddhahood.
오직 부처가 되는 이런 자비심을 발로 하는 것, 시 전제가 되지 않고.
Without the seed of compassion, you cannot become Buddha.
자비심이 발로가 안 됐을 때는.
The word only says that the compassion is the absolute essence or absolute cause for the absolute knowledge.
일체 종기를 갖다 이루는 씨앗심을 강조. 오직
The word only here is the emphasis. Only means I here. Only means only one. Like you have to plant beans. There's no other way. There can be no other conditions. No sesame, no sweet potato, nothing can make beans come out if it's not beans. So if I say I want to get rid of my poor status, if I say I want to be materially wealthy, then what can be the cause of your wealth? It lies in giving out. That is also only one. But usually people think of it as opposites. From parsimony, I can gain wealth. That's what a lot of people believe. But that shows that that person does not have the condition of life after that. And also he's not aware of the fact that the virtue is the seed. That's because he's ignorant.
우리가 지금까지 발견된 것 같아. 마음속에 산란심을 갖다 제거하는 것은
So as you know, the only way to remove the distorted heart is only through samantha. Our decision to remove them, that will not help it, and no other thing can help it other than samantha. That is also precisely stated. You should know. So knowing precisely is very important. But it doesn't mean I'm denying other conditions and causes. the absolute knowledge cannot be achieved without compassion. So, it's the emphasis. So it is the emphasis is given to the fact that wisdom is required for sure. So here they're not talking about other causes other than wisdom, but here they're talking about other conditions. Here the translation is a little translation is done a little bad, but here, as you know, the cause is only one, which is compassion. But other conditions that can supplement it is a little more. But if it's only enough with compassion, then it is a contradiction that the sense of bodhisattva and also means is required, which was previously described. So here it means that what we said previously, you need three things to achieve enlightenment, which is the sense of bodhisattva, compassion, and also means. But as you know, in order for a plant to grow, you need so many different conditions. You need the sunlight, you need soil, you need fertilizer, you need water. So for that, compassion, sense of bodhisattva, six parameters, and also other senses, other factors that helps you to gain enlightenment. You need them. If you have only beans, and then the beans will not be harvested again later, just from the beans. As is written in 불절법식경, those bodhisattvas in our common life, they should not learn too many different rules, but if they learn only one, but precisely they will be stay inside the great teachings of Buddha. That is the great wisdom. Here the explanation of the translation is not very precise, but it doesn't mean that bodhisattvas can be dumb, but the essential value that the bodhisattvas should learn is the compassion. So if a bodhisattva doesn't have the sense of compassion, but instead they have a sense of selection, then it is not possible. If the bodhisattva does not have a compassion but tries to follow the rules and regulations, then the person will be very rude or out of manner. Is it possible? You'll end up becoming someone like that. Forbearance without compassion, you'll become like an ignorant cow. You have to, if you bear or if you tolerate under the wisdom or compassion for the good of others, then there will be great. There can be nothing better than this. For a bodhisattvas, if she or he possess six parameters, but if you say a bodhisattva is achieved without six parameters, then that's also all a lie. For the good of all sentient beings, unless until you have a great compassion, that compassion will, and also together with the sense of bodhisattva, through these six parameters, it will mature and it will expand. You understand?
아시겠죠? 그래서 자비심이라는 것이
So you should know what precious value it is compassion. Whether you practice religion or whether you pray at home or whether you practice meditation, look at it. If there's a prayer that does not has compassion, if you talk about it in opposite way, then it is selfishness. The prayer for your own luck is selfishness. How can that be related to practice? How can that be related to virtue? It is not possible. The end.